Journeys is recorded at Doghouse Studios. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment on YouTube to keep the conversation going. Remember, if you like the content, like the content. Hello, welcome back to Journeys. Today is Wednesday, April 6th. I'm Chad Jones, and today with me I have my middle sister?
Yeah, middle child.
The middle child. Amy with me. Hi, Amy. How are you doing?
Not bad, and you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. All right. So, being my guest today, this week we've been talking about relationships, but like I said last time, I promised you that we could talk about diet. So really, it's anything you want to talk about. Let's hear you. What are your opening thoughts for today?
I think it is very early in the morning. That's my opening thought. But I guess there's always that key theme of consistency with yourself, with others, with just whatever your goals are in life, I guess, in general.
What about consistency that really speaks to you this morning?
Well, I guess especially regarding diet, it's nothing is ever perfect, even in whatever you're eating, whenever you're exercising, whenever you're even in relationships, as long as you're consistently a good partner to your partner, it's better in the long run.
Absolutely. I think one thing with consistency, I mean, we were talking to Shreya, and Shreya was mentioning routine. Would you say like consistency and routine go hand in hand? Or would you say that consistency and routine are like separate from each other?
I guess with routine, there's that implication of it's got to be done every day, and having it every single day. If you don't do your routine, then it's like, oh man, I feel so bad. And, I should have done this today. I should have gone outside, or I should have eaten maybe this instead of a donut or whatever. And whereas consistency is, oh, I didn't do it today. Okay, well, there's always tomorrow. Or as long as I do it for the rest of the week, then I should be okay.
Yeah. It's taking the bigger picture into I guess into view, right? Because if you're consistent, missing the gym one day out of 365 isn't a big deal. But if you're consistently missing the gym, then it's pretty bad. I also thought you said something about making like a choice between like, eating a donut today versus not eating a donut today. You're like, how often? I mean, you're vegan, right?
Yeah.
For the most part. Yeah, so you're vegan. And donuts, like, do you still get cravings for food outside of your diet?
All the time? Yeah, all the time.
But you stay consistent in it. How do you manage to do that in such a challenging environment? I mean, like, I'm out driving all the time. I see all these ads for beer. I see all these ads for food. Like, how do you manage to just kind of cancel the noise out and say, okay, this is not in my diet item. I'm not going to eat it. How do you do that?
For example, I guess for me, I really wanted a steak a couple days ago, like a really good, medium cooked steak. And what happened with that was I thought about how it made me feel. And every time I would eat meat, or I would eat dairy, or I would just eat any sort of animal byproduct, I would always feel that kind of really full feeling, but not in a good way, almost a sick feeling. So I never necessarily chose my diet for the animals because, as much as I love animals, it's not really more for ethical reasons. It's more of a plant-based for how it makes me feel afterwards. So I just basically think of that, and I'm just like, oh, you know what? Maybe I can find like a better way to eat it, or I'll make like a stir fry, or I'll make something else where I'm like, it's meaty enough.
Yeah.
In quotes.
How super inconsiderate of you to consider not the animals but yourself. You selfish prick. I mean,
I love the animals, but that's not why I'm doing it.
the animals not dying is like a nice byproduct of my life choices. I get that. No, that's good. Okay, so moving on to I would say motivation, I guess, is one thing that you've written down, right? Um, I mean, this is a question that I kind of ask myself: is motivation, does it precede or proceed, um, action? So pretty much like, is are you more motivated after you've done something or before you've done something? Or
Oh, after.
yeah, 100%, right? I mean, how often are you really motivated to go to the gym until after you've gone to the gym? You're like, oh man, I did it.
This feels great.
Exactly.
I will do it again tomorrow. And then you wake up and you're like, do I really want to go to the gym?
Now, luckily, we had this planned in advance. Like, I called you, like, expecting you not to pick up. I'd be like, I'll just record. But this is early. This is 5:15 in the morning. Luckily, you are pretty much my neighbor in the grand scheme of things.
I could have basically walked here.
Yeah, you could have. Luckily, you didn't.
Yeah, because I think I would fall asleep on the walk back, to be honest.
No, you'd be like, Chris, drive me home. I'd be like, that's not my name. Shh, no one knows.
Mr. Jones, drive me home.
There you go. Mr. Jones. Wow, that was from Indiana Jones. That's from Indiana Jones. It's not racist. It's a quote from a movie.
That he just used in a very racist
In a very
accent.
racist way. In a very, I am not of this culture way. Yeah, so like, what would you say is your biggest motivational factor for doing everything? Again, is it just searching for that after feeling of doing something, or is there something that is beforehand, or is it just really just working through whatever you're feeling at the time, like getting to the next stage of the doing process, I guess?
It brings me clarity when I do it. Like, when I have that motivation and when I do the thing, like if I needed to even do laundry or I needed to do, any basic chore, once I've gotten it done, I definitely feel that, I feel really motivated. I feel really productive. I feel really good about this. So I think you're definitely right where I definitely get that after feeling of motivation.
But I guess for where I guess I'm leading is that once you've done something and once you've completed that task and checked that box, that motivation, does that influence you after? Like, let's say you go to the gym, that's your thing. You're like, I just want to do this for today. Once you're done at the gym, do you now, like, you're like, wow, I feel great, or I don't feel great, whatever the case is. Are you then motivated to go home and chore? Are you motivated to go to work? Like, what, after you've done that action, after you've checked the box, what is the after lingering effect beyond the current action?
Oh, I can do anything. I can now go into work and not feel as bad about it.
Exactly. Not the crippling depression of, oh, I have to do something that I don't want to do because I get money for it.
Capitalism.
Capitalism is awful. Actually, the podcast I'm listening to is talking about, if you look at my Malazan collection over here, see the purple one?
Yes.
The one beside it, the taller of the ones. It's very hard to tell because it just doesn't quite fit perfectly. The first one and the fifth one don't quite fit. But the fifth one of the main characters is like, I hate capitalism. I absolutely hate capitalism. And I'm going to destroy capitalism with an iron fist. So it was kind of funny.
Also, I just want to point out the fact that your shelf is tilted forward.
That is gravity. That is 100% gravity.
They all look the same height.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, we're kind of getting away from the topic, so I'm going to take a little break and we will talk on the other side. All right, let's try to get the last little bit of recording in before Liam comes down and he's a guest again. So one thing that I think you and I are both on the same page with is our alcohol consumption has gone down significantly this year. How does that overall make you feel?
I mean, when I'm not drinking, I definitely feel a lot better. Because I could be really consistent for Monday to Friday, and then Friday night hits, and it's almost like all of the lights in my head are just like party mode. I'm going to now drink this whole 2-4. I'm gonna have all these shots and do everything else, and which of course kind of basically wrecks the other 5 days, because if you're drinking Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's like you're gonna feel like crap. You're gonna feel not the greatest, and then you have and that's the whole reason why you go to the gym, is just to feel better and just to kind of for your own mental health and whatnot. And even with alcohol, like the calories and stuff add up. Like you definitely, if you're drinking beer, you definitely feel that beer belly within a certain amount of time, right?
Yeah, and I think with any of that, with the alcohol consumption in general, now of course it sounds to me like you do these like binges on the weekends, but if you look at it, I mean, Sunday night, do you binge Sunday night?
Not really Sunday night, no.
No, because it's a work night.
Yeah.
And then what, till Thursday you're probably good?
Yeah.
So that's like 5/7 of your week.
Mm-hmm.
But then those 2/7 of your week become such a dangerous point. I mean, I'm not condoning, like, this is aside from alcohol, but I'm not condoning like binging in general, because that's something I do. I think we're you, me, Erica, Annette, like we're all condone, like we all binge at some point or another. It's just kind of what we do. However, if I'm looking at those numbers and I say 5/7 of the time I'm doing something right, like those are pretty good numbers. Are you really hard on yourself for the other 2/7 of the time?
I try not to be, but definitely after the second night, let's say, I'm definitely feeling it Sunday, and I'm like, man, I really shouldn't have done that. But at the time, it was something I enjoyed. So, and that's all that it is with life, is just kind of enjoying, the little things, enjoying what you have and the time you have. Because especially when we give 5 days of our week to, again, the capitalism. It doesn't, maybe that's why we do what we do, is so we can feel a bit better about ourselves. And like, whatever we do to make ourselves feel better, we go to the gym, we have a drink, we try to forget about the week. It's, I guess it's all about balance.
100%. Now, one thing that I found without alcohol is, like, it's not the nights that are less fun. I mean, sometimes they're a little less fun when I just want to get drunk and play Rocket League with people and just be sloppy and silly. But it's the mornings that I find it the easiest, because I'm not, like, even a little, like, groggy. I can smoke as much weed as I want. I wake up the next day, I'm like, oh, man, I should not have smoked that much weed because that was a lot of weed. But, like, if I'm, like, if I have alcohol and even the slight thought of, like, I've had too much alcohol, I don't get up and think I've had too much alcohol. I wait until I don't feel like shit. And then I'm like, okay, I had too much alcohol. Whereas with weed, it's very instant. It's very much like, yeah, I had too much of this, but I'm not going to have as much. I mean, do you still, when you binge, do you get those binge hangovers? Like, I'm not, obviously not just alcohol, but food and all the other party tricks that you throw away from the week at the door on Friday nights.
Oh yeah, well, even with food, I definitely feel the next day that classic, bloating feeling, and that sometimes I get like stomach aches and everything else, and I'm just like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have eaten that third piece of cake, but life is short, right?
Yeah, the third piece of cake really hurt me, but the other 4 I had after that weren't so bad. At that point, I was just numb.
All I could taste was the cake.
Exactly. And then, like, breakfast goes out the window, and, like, it's hard. Do you have any strategies to cope with your binging? Have you tried to cope with your binging?
I mean, I've been trying to brush my teeth. Like, that's because nothing taints another food like spearmint flavor as your and your teeth feel really clean afterwards. So you're like, oh, do I really want to eat? Or even I try to drink more water, where I drink so much water where it fills up my stomach, to the point where I'm like, I'm not really that hungry anymore. But especially during a binge, it's like, oh, well, I've already done this thing, so I'm just going to keep doing this thing. And then until I can't anymore. But
you're like, okay, I've had half of my pack of grapes, and that's a lot of sugar, but fuck it, I can have the rest of the grapes too.
And that fourth piece of cake.
Yeah, and the fourth piece and the fifth piece. Really want to insinuate that there were 7 pieces of cake in this cake, just to relate it back to the days of the week, right? Because I feel like the way you eat this cake is, let's say I'm like, okay, here's a cake, okay, and it's a small cake, but you can cut it. I'm gonna cut it into 7 pieces because I'm obsessed with the 7. You can have 1 piece a day, or you can have the whole cake on a Friday night. And what you seem to do is, instead of having a piece of cake Monday or Sunday night to Thursday night, is you're just like, I'm going to eat this whole cake Friday and Saturday, and I'm going to deal with the consequences of the cake.
Oh, yeah, it's all or nothing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Have you thought about cutting the cake in half instead of in 7? And what I mean by that is, like, okay, if you're going to binge this cake, and this cake is going to exist, instead of eating a 1/7 of the cake every day or eating the whole cake over 2 days, cut the cake in half and be like, this is my binge cake. I have this half is for this week, this half is for next week. And then from there, you can cut it into 14. And then that way you have smaller pieces of cake, kind of like how Dad eats cake. Our father eats cake, like the way he eats anything is so funny. Because do you want to tell? You can go.
No, basically what he does is he will cut 1/3 of a regular sized piece. And especially when he first opens stuff like cuts open like a pie, let's say, you can tell it was him because it's just like the tiniest little cut, almost like incision in the piece of pie.
If I surgically remove this, no one will notice this piece is gone.
But here's the thing too, is I guess on the weekend when we all had a family dinner, I left 2 vegan chicken nuggets in the serving dish that we were all using. And he got so upset about this. He was like, Amy, why would you only leave 2 chicken nuggets in the serving dish? Knowing fully well he would do the exact same thing.
And the thing is, like, you could have just turned around and been like, well, these are for you. And he would have been like, okay. Looked you straight in the eye and just been like, I'm taking 1. And then eat half of it.
Exactly.
Then put it back. Then come back for the other half later. Like, that's what he does. So, like, he cuts. So, again, coming back to the cake thing, it's just this idea that if you portion that binge session, and you're like, I know I'm gonna binge, I'm gonna indulge the binge, but I only have this food to binge, and you like, it's like if you were to go to Bulk Barn and get like a huge bag of candy, and you could try to eat all that candy in one go, but eventually you'd be like, I hurt. You're an adult, eventually you would hurt. But if you were to take that bag and then say, okay, here, I'm going to put it into Ziploc bags, and this is my binge candy for the week. And then at the end of the week, if you're like, here's 7 bags of candy, but of these 7 bags that I would have eaten over the week anyways, I'm only going to eat this one, but I'm going to enjoy I'm going to love this candy on my Friday night. But then after that, your other strategies, drinking water and brushing your teeth. If you do that and don't like get the munchies, if you're not smoking or if you're just not a munchy person, that's going to be a huge thing.
Yeah. That's definitely why I don't smoke as much as I know the average person does, because as soon as I smoke weed, I'm like, man, I really want like Little Caesars deep dish pizza.
You know what sounds good? Little Caesars folded on top of itself between 2 buns on like a Sonny's burger. Like, that sounds just delicious.
With a milkshake and some ice cream sandwiches.
And for my drink, like, other than a milkshake, because you need like a liquid drink, not just like a half liquid, half solid drink. You're like a Diet Pepsi. Mm-hmm. Not a Coke. If you give me a Coke, I'm going to throw this food back at you.
Yeah, I would take a Diet Pepsi, because I'm on a diet and my body is a temple.
My body is a temple to Buddha. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. Like this was a quick episode. I don't think we really got. I hope it was entertaining for you. I hope you took that away.
Oh yes, hopefully I can definitely, if everyone likes me, come by again maybe.
Yeah, of course. And you know what? It was funny because I was listening again to another podcast and they had a guest on, and the guest was on for the second time. He's like, sometimes when you're on for the first time, it's an honor because you're like, oh, it's good. But then when they invite you back, you're like, it's a bigger honor because you're like, you liked me enough to get me to return.
You guys want me to talk about more? Well, it's the same thing. Like, I thought the first thing that would be brought up was veganism, right? Of like, oh, she's a vegan, whatever. See, I don't even need to tell people that. Every time it's like, oh, this is my vegan friend Amy. And I'm like, all right.
It's like being outed.
Yeah. Exactly.
But for Wednesday, April 6th, I'm Chad Jones, again, joined by my sister. Thank you so much for coming. This has been Journeys, and I will talk to you on another time.
Bye.